Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, One Rental at a Time, back with the CEO of Hemlane. How you doing, Dana?
I'm great. Thanks for having me again.
So I have some data to share with you and the One Rental at a Time community because I hear a lot of fuss, a lot of stress about Wall Street coming in and dominating what used to be mom and pop's real estate world. So I have some data I want to collect, or I have collected, and I want to share with you. You ready?
Yep, I am.
All right, so I have it on my phone, so I have to look at it here. So first off, we're going to play a little guessing game. So just so you know, there are 128 million households in the United States. What is your guess for what percent own versus what percent rent?
Well, I know it was 44 million renter households a while ago. So I know it always toggled between that. I think it was like 37 to 40% rentals. Could go up from now, but I think it was around there that was renter occupied. It might have slightly changed, but
yeah. You nailed it. So based on this, there are 62% owned, which means 38% rented. Mathematically, it's rounded to 79 million owned and 49 million rented. So we're going to break down the 49 million next. Did you want to say?
Well, I was going to say that's gone up from, it was 44 million renter households, I know, like a couple of years ago. So it's gone up. There's more renter households, which is from that perspective, good for this show.
Yep. So of the 49 million rental households, they bucketed those into 4 buckets. Is that right? Bucketed, but whatever. So 10 plus units, so smaller, like bigger apartments. 33% of those are in apartments of that size, or 16 million units. 2 to 9, so we're talking duplexes all the way up to 9 units. 29%, or 14 million units. Mobile homes, boats, things of that nature, 4%, or 2 million, which means single families, the things that One Rental at a Time is all about, 35%, or 17 million units are rental homes.
Yep.
So
and that makes complete sense to me. I think a total 78% of rental households are under 20 unit complexes. Mm-hmm. So you kind of think in these cities of these big REITs, but really the mass market is these smaller kind of mom and pop operators, whether you have a single family home, fourplex, etc. Yeah.
So this is single family only. Again, so the total is, they actually rounded to 17 million. In this final chart, it's 16.5 is the total. So 16.5 million single family rental homes. How much do you think are owned by mom and pops? How many do you think are owned by big hedge funds, institutional buyers, things of that nature? Any guesses? You can guess a percent or a number.
So I remember a couple of years ago that it was about 300,000 were owned by the institutionals. And while they're buying, I still don't think that has gone above 1 million. I think it's still pretty low, but correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, you nailed it. It's based on the chart that I have in front of me, it's 300,000. So 16.2 million homes, or 98.2% are mom and pop. So I know there's a lot of press about them buying all these single family homes. They're not buying that much. They're buying 300,000. And now again, 300,000 on a percentage basis is probably up from what they were doing 5 years ago. Sure. But again, the single family rental market is really run by mom and pops. They're run by the people that use Hemlane, that read One Rental at a Time. Wall Street, it's difficult for them, right? They don't have scale. That's why they're going to builders and they're buying entire neighborhoods. That makes sense to me. But hopscotching around and putting little portfolios together, no economies of scale. If they do it wrong and they end up like Zillow or Redfin or all these other folks that are trying to be iBuyers and are terrible at it. So again, mom and pops, 98+% are running Wall Street, and I feel good about that.
Yeah, and I think there's actually, it's interesting with the media and PR. Wall Street has the folks to go and say, Wall Street Journal, whatever news source, go write an article about how we're buying these homes. And the small mom and pop community doesn't have like a one centralized source to go and communicate what they're doing, right? It's just incredibly fragmented. And so the only things you read in the news is institutional this, institutional that, which makes it makes sense. It skews people's mindset to say, oh, institutionals are buying a huge percentage, but you're just not seeing that the mass market, just total in general, still is those who are just starting out with one rental at a time and buying their units. Yep.
Yeah. And again, be ready, folks. Next year, or maybe even later this year, we're going to hear about Wall Street doubling the number of single family homes they own. It'll be 3%. It's just remember that percentages when taken on low numbers can look wacky. So again, this is a lot of fun. I think it is awesome that mom and pop's 16.2 million of the 16.5. We're just mom and pop is always going to dominate single family homes. Wall Street will come and go. Wall Street will stop looking at single family homes as soon as other investments look good, but mom and pop will always be here. So I love what you do in Hemlane, and I love the 30-day trial you give mom and pop investors. Where can they find it?
You can go to www.hemlane.com and just mention one rental at a time, because you do get 20% off your first year.
I really appreciate you coming on the show and also giving them that discount. That's just such a nice thing you do for the audience. So thank you for that.
Great. Thanks, Michael, for having me.